Hey folks, so I'm going to talk to you about the 1+2 active reading exercise. It's pretty simple. You're going to do this on Google Drive and I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. But here's the deal. Part of my job is to teach you how to read and meaningfully engage with academic articles. And instead of doing that alone, we're going to do that together, right? So over homework, you're going to be reading your article on Google Drive and commenting on it. And so are your peers, right? So here's how I'm going to grade you on that. All right. So the 1+2 thing is really a name that I've invented so that you keep in mind what I want you to do. All right. So obviously you're going to read the article. You're going to notice that every time you have an article assigned, I will have already flagged what the thesis, like the central thesis of the article is. Okay. So, you know, as soon as you start reading, you'll be like, oh, cool. Dr. G has marked the thesis. I know what this is about. All right. Then you're going to read the whole thing, except for the parts that you know that you can skip, right? The lit review and the methodology section you can skip. You're going to read the intro, you're going to read the findings, you're going to read the conclusion, okay? There is a lot of skippable material. All right, so then at least once in the article, you are just going to highlight a passage where you feel that the author has done maybe a good job offering an example to support their thesis, or maybe you want to highlight a passage where you feel like, hey, this is a really cool quote that might be useful to include in a paper someday, right? That might be another thing you might decide to highlight. Or you might decide to highlight a concept in the author's piece that you think helps remind you of something else, all right? So just one time highlight a comment that fits one of those criteria. All right, then based on whatever you've highlighted, you're going to then include a comment with that. In Google Drive, to highlight something, you have to add a comment. When you add the comment, so if you highlighted something you thought was a good example, you will explain why you thought the example was so strong. If you identified a passage that you felt was super quotable, you'd explain why you felt it was super quotable. And if you identified a concept you think helps you rethink something else that's not necessarily addressed in the article, you would say, hey, this is the concept and here's how it helps me rethink this other thing, right? So that's the first thing. You just highlight one thing and comment on it using following, steps 2 and 3. Pretty simple. Then you keep on reading. And as you're going to be reading, you're going to notice that eventually you're going to start to see your peers' comments appear alongside yours. So at least twice during this lovely event where you're reading, you're going to want to read and reply to your peers' comments. All right? And I do mean meaningfully reply. So if they felt like an example was super strong and they explained why, you would reply with what struck you as compelling about that example, right? Or if they identified something that they thought was a super quotable quote, and maybe you hadn't really even noticed that, but now you're like thinking about it, offer some sort of commentary that says, yeah, this makes me think about things differently, and explain what that is. Or if your peers have identified a concept that helps them think about something else in a different way, and they've explained that, then you're going to want to respond and say, yeah, this had me thinking. You can either extend their line of thought, or you can say, it also made me think about this thing, right? So as a guiding rule, I want you to avoid being contrary. We can all find things we disagree with in articles. That's actually not the point of scholarly research. It's about finding ideas that we can use to build something else, right? It's not terribly intellectual to tear things down, right? And this is about intellectual reading, right? So there's that. Also, don't troll your peers. You won't receive points. Please don't. Come on. So there's that. There are 9 active reading activities in this class that we're going to do like this. You can get 2 points every time you do it. You just have to make sure to follow the instructions, right? And the first one is due September 3rd, where we're all going to be reading Tobin et al.'s piece where they analyze 26 different Disney films. All right, so I'm going to show you what it looks like to practice the 2+1 exercise. So this is a sample essay, right? So this is the thing about My Little Ponies, about bronies. So you'll see that I have highlighted the thesis right here. This is the thesis. Anytime that I assign you something, I will highlight the thesis because I want you to know what the central argument is. And then you're going to just keep on reading, all right? So here is an example of me. So I did this with a partner so that you could see what this looks like. So here you see that I quoted or I highlighted something, and then I put, hey, this is a good example. And then I say, not only, this is why I think it's a good example. And then you'll see that Mandy has, responded following the directions. So that's one example, right, where someone says, hey, this is a good example, and let's respond, right? Mandy also found a good example, and I responded to her. Here, I found a really cool concept, right? And I explained why I thought it was a cool concept, and then Mandy responded. And Mandy found a cool quote. I responded to the quote. Yeah. You don't have to put in all caps quote or example or concept. I did that so that you could understand what I was flagging. It's not a bad idea to do that if you want to sort of remind yourself, but remember, you only have to highlight something and comment on it once, but you have to respond to 2 of your peers following the instructions. So this is kind of how this is how you do it. Now, if you read the article and you comment on it, and you might be one of the first people to respond, you're going to want to, check back in later on so that you can dialogue with 2 of your peers, right? I want to show you what it looks like to make a comment. So let's just say that I want to highlight this bit right here. You see how it turns in blue? It's not going to highlight unless I press this comment thing, and then it's going to turn yellow. And you type your comment, and then you hit the comment button, and then the highlighting will stick, all right? I do want to mention too that there are some times when you might open up the article and you can see the yellow highlighting, but you cannot see the comments, and it will say something like, the comments failed to sync. It's totally fine. The comments are still there. All you're going to do is close out of that document again and open it. All right, so I'm going to show you what that looks like really quick, because this is a little different. All right, so you're going to click on the reading, and it's just going to open you. As soon as you click on the reading, you're going to see this. All right, and this is where you're going to read it in Google Drive, right? And you can see that the comments show up. But again, if you see the yellow highlighting and not the commenting on the side, it'll usually say, hey, this failed to sync, so just close it out and then open it again. Okay, so that's how you do this. It's a pretty simple exercise, and I think that it's going to help you understand the article a lot better. Okay, take care.